Councillor Linville? Councillor West?
I'm on mute. Okay, present.
Council President Ackerval?
Here.
Councillor Lehan?
Here.
Mayor Knapp?
Here. All accounted for. Would you please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did you see my text to you?
So how did staff ever get that gentle breeze wafting through the council chambers there?
That was lovely.
That was nice. I would entertain a motion on order of agenda, keeping in mind the discussion we had at work session about moving the consent agenda item on resolution 2810 to the new business section, and then moving all of our new business forward to, what did we decide? After communications, I think.
Excuse me, Your Honor, is that resolution 2811 under new business, not 2810?
It's 2810.
Well, we want to move 2810 from consent to join 2811 as new business.
Okay. So, Your Honor, I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda with the following change to move resolution number 2810 from the consent agenda to new business with resolution number 2811.
And were we going to move new business up on the?
And we move that new business up under communications.
Thank you. That's Councilor Linville motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor West. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Or something.
Aye.
So that's
Aye.
unanimous. Okay, so passes 5-0 for city recorder. Let's see. Upcoming meetings, I don't know what to say, except we're probably going to be on virtual meetings here for a while. Next meeting is for May 4 on a Monday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. And it's hard to see how many other actual meetings are likely to occur. I've been on Zoom meetings with Clackamas County, with Clackamas County Business Alliance, with Westside Economic Alliance, with Washington County Coordinating Committee, with Metro, with Metro Transportation Bond Funding Committee, with, I mean, it seems like there's no end to the Zoom meetings. So, we will continue to work to carry the business of the city forward, even in these highly unusual times. I will not speak further on that right this moment, but I believe that we have a visitor from Metro Councilor Dirksen, I think, is joining us. Is that right?
Can't do that. We do.
Do we have Councilor Dirksen joining us? There he is. There he is. Okay. So welcome. I appreciate your taking time to join us, sir, tonight. And your topic is a topic that I heard a presentation on earlier about, and that is the ballot measure that is upcoming that Metro headquartered or that Metro organized. And I will toss the ball to you if you are ready to give us a little talk.
I am ready, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Mayor and councilors, good evening. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for inviting me to come and give you background and information on the homeless services measure that we're planning for. That's going to be on the ballot next month for the election in May. And I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I have a slideshow that I would like to share.
Very good.
Share. And are we seeing it?
We've got it. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'd like to start by maybe beginning by answering some questions. And one of the questions we've been hearing is that why is Metro doing this and why are they doing it now? So I'd like to begin by sharing some information about that. Several months ago, Metro was approached by a group of people called the Here Together Coalition. And they told us that they were putting together a measure to provide funding for homeless services. And they asked us as the Metro Council to put this on the ballot. And frankly, when they first approached us, we said, no, we're sorry, but we really can't. Not that we're opposed to the idea, but we're a little busy right now. We've got several measures of our own that we're working on. As you know, we recently passed an affordable housing measure and a parks bond, and we're working on a transportation measure. And so we said we really don't have the bandwidth to do that. Besides that, looking at the issue of homeless services, it's really not something that's in our wheelhouse. We don't have the expertise or the experience to do that. We frankly don't have the staff or funding to be able to do that. And so we kind of said thanks, but no thanks. And they went away, not very happy. And they came back a little later and said, well, here's what we're going to do. If you won't put it on the ballot, we're writing the measure. We've written the measure. We are going to go out and get signatures. And once we have sufficient signatures, we will bring them to you and present the measure and the signatures. And by law, you'll be required to put it on the ballot. Our staff reviewed that and concluded that if they were to do that, they would be successful in collecting the signatures, and if they did so, then the measure itself would be successful as well. And Metro would be responsible for doing this. Based on that, we made the decision that if we're going to have to do it anyway, then we should be involved in it. As Councilor Lewis said, if we're going to have to eat this meal, then we should at least be involved in planning the menu. So we agreed to work with the Here Together Coalition. And by the way, Cole Merkel from the Here Together Coalition is with us tonight and will be available to help answer questions as well. We reviewed the measure that they had proposed, and we suggested several changes to it in order to make it be more functional for Metro and the way Metro does things. And our stipulation was that we would have this say in the measure, and that we weren't going to be the people who would actually administer the funds, that we would recognize that the counties and the nonprofit organizations that the counties work with to provide homeless services are the ones who should do this. So we would write the measure so that we would collect the money using Metro's regional taxing authority, but then the money would be distributed to the counties and to those nonprofits, and they would be the ones who would then use the money to fund the programs and processes that they already have in place for assisting the homeless. And the second stipulation was that if we were going to do that, it would be on the ballot in May, not in November, because we didn't want it to coincide and interfere with our transportation measure that we intend to have. So that's the kind of the history in a nutshell. And so we'll move forward from there. Why are we doing this? I think we can all agree that homelessness is a crisis that affects us all and really is something that requires our attention. We need to address. There's over 5,000 people who sleep on the street every night in the region. And on top of that, we've got thousands of people who are not currently homeless, but they're on the brink of being homeless. And how can we address that in a way that prevents them from becoming homeless and therefore nip that in the bud in a more efficient way, in a more heartfelt way? We also have many children who are experiencing homelessness. By some measures, we have the highest percentage of homeless juveniles in the United States in the Portland metro area. So one of the reasons why we wanted to do it the way we were, rather than Metro administer the funds, is we know that the counties and the nonprofits that work with them, they know how to do this. They're taking care of many homeless already. They have programs and processes, solutions in place that they know work. If that's so, why are there still a lot of homeless? The very easy answer is because their programs are underfunded. They do not have the revenues needed in order to address the volume of the challenge that we face in the metro region. So we recognize that if we provide these existing organizations with more funding, then they would be able to go out and address and serve more people than they do already. The proof of that is that these groups like Central City Concern and others, they already serve hundreds, even thousands of people who are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. And if not for those programs that are already in place, there would not be 5,000 people on the streets. There would be as many as 18,000 people on the streets. But because these programs already exist, much of it's being addressed, but there's just not enough revenue to go around. So what kind of services do people need? I'll go back. Homelessness isn't just about not having a home. Homelessness has root causes that lead to homelessness. Things like job challenges, lack of job training, mental health issues, and coupled perhaps with substance abuse as well. So providing people with homes is not going to solve the problem unless those underlying causes of homelessness aren't addressed. So the counties and these groups work to provide those kinds of services, housing services, but also job services and mental health services and substance abuse programs. All of those needs all those things are needed in order to meet the root causes that cause homelessness. So why $250 million? The measure is designed under a non-COVID-19 economy to raise $250 million a year to provide in additional funding for these services. Why? Because it's calculated that that's the amount necessary to address the unmet need that exists in our region. And as you can see, there are certain groups that we've identified that have been identified that are more at risk than others to be homeless and to need those kinds of services. So what is the measure? How is the measure going to be funded? To raise $250 million, we looked at two different taxes. One would be on high-income earners, a 1% marginal tax on taxable income over $200,000 for a household or over $125,000 for a single. And I want to really be clear that the tax is only on that amount of income that's over those limits. If you make $125,000 a year, if you are single, this 1% is not on your entire income, but only on the income that's over $125,000. Same for a married couple or a household. The tax is only on the amount over $200,000 for the household. and that means that over 90% of individuals in the region would be exempt. Same is true for the other tax, a 1% business net profits tax on large businesses. That's for from businesses that have a gross income over $5 million a year, a 1% business net profits tax on profits on the profits over that $5 million. So again, it exempts small and medium-sized businesses, and that would exempt 94% of the businesses in the Portland metro area. Now, I want to talk about what that means under the current circumstances. What's going to happen because of COVID-19 and the impact that has both on businesses and on earners? Well, the fact is that if because of the virus your income is reduced, then you would be taxed less. If as a result of the virus your business is less profitable, then you would be taxed less. So it's only on the income over or the profit over a certain point before you would begin to be taxed. And this tax would not begin to be collected until the first of next year at the earliest. So as I said, the funding would be collected through Metro's taxing authority, but then it would be distributed to the 3 counties and their nonprofits that work with them. As you can see, the percentages would go to the different counties: 21.3% to Clackamas, 45.3% to Multnomah County, 33.3% to Washington County. And you can see from the slide that the percentage that they would receive is different than the percentage share of population. Why? Because the distribution will not be done based on population. The distribution will be done based on where the money came from. So any tax collected from businesses or high-income earners in Clackamas County would go back to Clackamas County. Any tax collected from the other two, either of the other 2 counties, would go back to their 2 counties. So the Here Together Coalition is leading the charge. They're leading the campaign, and they're engaging voters even during this pandemic. And so I'm pleased to have Cole with us tonight as well. They're working very hard to get the word out and get the information out on this measure. We've recently received polling that even in the midst of the pandemic, well over 50% of people have indicated a positive that they will definitely vote for this measure. So there's several ways that we or you can be engaged. You could go to the website and pledge to vote yes. On the website, you can also go in and do personal endorsements for the website. You can use that information to share on your social media with the people in your circle, and then online as well. And we would encourage you to support the measure. And as an elected official, speaking to other elected officials, I can ask for that. And we would certainly be interested in you as a council to consider the measure as well. We can skip that. So we're asking everyone who's concerned about homelessness in our region to be part of that solution. Endorse the measure, pledge to vote, if possible, make a contribution and help spread the word. That's the end of my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I would maybe bow to Cole if you would be willing to allow him to join the conversation, and he could maybe fill in any gaps in what I have shared, and also help answer any questions that you might have. Hey, Cole.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Merkel, would you like to add anything at the outset here?
Ultimately, I think Councilor Dirksen did a great job at explaining the absolute need for this measure right now. The fact that right now with COVID-19, now more than ever, as we're seeing our communities have to deal with the repercussions of the economic impact is the time that we absolutely need to act. Our homelessness crisis was here and it was real 3 months ago when we crafted this measure. It was real 10 years ago when I moved to this city to do work with people experiencing homelessness. It is absolutely imperative now that we act as a community boldly so that we can work to end our homelessness crisis together and not let it get worse in the wake of this economic catastrophe that we're all experiencing.
Well, thank you. Council, anyone like to ask questions or make a observation or comment? Somebody? Councilor Linville. There you go.
There.
That if you want to speak briefly, all you have to do is push down your space bar and it unmutes you as long as you hold it down.
Oh, nice. Nice to know that. I think they may be controlling our muting from afar. So I just wanted to thank you for coming and thank you for bringing this issue before us. I think it's a difficult time right now, and I'm hopeful that voters will not have to make some changes in how they might have otherwise voted for this measure. So, and I have a web page, and I would be happy to put that information on my on my Facebook page. So,
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Very good. Other comments? Councilor West?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
No, you're good.
You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Out of everybody probably on this call, I am the only person right now that cares for those that are mentally ill and have recent and extensive experience with this patient population. And it is something that breaks my heart, and I've been in an ED that's been an emergency department that's been overwhelmed, and a patient has nowhere to go. There's no bed for them, and the experience, I won't get into the details, but the experience often with that patient stuck in an emergency department is horrific, and is not conducive to their care and their well-being and the quality of care or safety. I've taken care of those in our penal system as a nurse that struggle with severe mental illness and are dangerous, and are trying to find mental health treatment within our penal system. And often how that care is not delivered, in my opinion, in a just way. But I have a couple concerns with Oregon's broken mental health system overall, and it's in crisis. And I grew up in North Portland by Overlook Park, and the park I grew up with and now has become a tent city and has needles and human excrement where I used to play. And now where my niece lives in that neighborhood now, but where I grew up and played as a kid is no longer a place where I could play, or is no longer. It has ballooned beyond anything I could ever imagine and remember as a child growing up in the city. Mental Health America ranks Oregon last in its readiness to treat mental health. There has, in my opinion, been severe neglect and a lack of quality leadership from the highest levels of our state. And I'm a little bit torn because I know that the primary driving forces for mental illness are it's layered. It's not just one issue. It's a multi-layered type of thing that causes somebody to be homeless. Often it is mental illness, and often that is accompanied by substance abuse and addiction. I know that we now have actually recently seen a decrease of our inpatient beds for those with mental illness throughout the state, especially the Portland area. And we do not have enough beds to help these people that need treatment. And so could you speak, and that raises my question, could you speak to how these funds would actually be used and get to the patient to get more hospital beds or to get treatment to stop the cycle that causes those that are homeless to stay homeless.
Counselor, do you want me to take that?
Whoever is ready to talk to it, yeah, either one of you.
This is Cole. I was checking with Counselor Dirksen. So that's a great question, and I really appreciate you bringing it up because I also worked for 10 years with folks experiencing homelessness and severe mental health and addiction issues in downtown Portland. And ultimately, what I realized in that time is that there is a population of people that our only options for them right now are a bridge, sleeping under a bridge, a jail bed, or a hospital bed, and that's not sustainable. When we crafted our strategic policy framework, along with our governance framework, which Metro has enshrined in statute that once these funds are secured, they're going to be using that as the way to be able to move forward with creating their work plan on how these funds are going to be distributed. We were very clear in making sure that behavioral health, mental health, addiction and substance use treatment were all very much in line with what these dollars can and should be spent on. Each of the counties, I should note with what Councilor Dirksen was saying, each of the counties will be able to, within their own local implementation strategies, prioritize how to solve chronic homelessness within the needs of those counties. But within that framework, we have absolutely laid out mental health, addiction, behavioral treatments as necessary.
I guess I know that as a counselor, I am reserving at this point on whether or not to endorse or promote because I'm very skeptical of the leadership throughout the state that's allowed the crisis to balloon to the point that it is. And I also want to make sure that those dollars are giving the most people the most access to equitable, safe, and quality patient-centered care that is patient-centered, that's high quality, and that is safe. And that I am, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, or any background, that it is equitable, safe, and fair. And I think that not pointing any fingers at one elected, but across the board, this is a moral crisis that we faced with. This is a moral problem and a moral stain on our entire state. We have not done enough to actually care for this population. The stigma attached to it, the ability to make sure that their needs are met. We are literally 50th in the nation in this and ready to have treatments ready for this patient population. And I know I sound passionate about this. It's something I deeply, deeply care about. It's something that keeps me up at night. I've cared for these people. And until I know that this large additional bond on top and with everything else coming down the pike is going to go towards that type of care, I want to know that before I support it. And so maybe we can talk offline, Cole, or coffee or something. I'd love to know more about what you guys are doing. But as a nurse, I really just care about the most ethical care going to this patient population that's patient-centered. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you for your presentation.
I think the only thing I'll add to that is these are absolutely in the implementation conversations, the questions that you as leaders and our local electeds need to continue to make sure that we're making sure to advocate for those folks. So I look forward to continuing to work together on this, Councilor West.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Maybe we'll chat later.
Other questions or comments? Well, I appreciate you gentlemen coming and presenting this to us. Coming up toward the primary, it's certainly important to get the word out on this. I think it's indisputable that need that existed before the COVID crisis is going to only be worse before we're done with the COVID crisis. And it's better to be a little bit ahead of the curve if we can in this case than to wait till things get even worse before we take action. So I'm hopeful that our citizens will look at this that way and look at it as dollars close to the ultimate need that will be used on a local basis to further the proven efforts that are already in place or have been tried on the ground, and we'll just expand the capacity of those channels to do more, which to me is kind of a separate question than whether the policy for the whole state is something that needs discussion. You know, in the meantime, that doing what we can at the local and regional levels is important. So appreciate the work you're doing on this, and we'll look forward to seeing how things go here in another couple of weeks.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Appreciate you taking the time, and have a good rest of your evening.
All right, sir. Thanks very much. So that is the only scheduled communication item that we had, and we, on our agenda motion, chose to move 2810 and 2811 together as new business to this point in the agenda. We had a fairly, actually a very robust conversation going in work session. I don't know how many people might be viewing this. Mr. Cosgrove, do we want to recapture staff presentation at this point?
Do you have an abbreviated presentation?
I don't, but I can try to summarize.
How about just a quick summary, because we had a very extensive, elaborate presentation and work session, so he'll just hit the high notes here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved it up. Do you want to do, is there anybody citizen inputting too? Do you want to do citizen input prior to doing this, Mayor? Or did you want to do the program first? There may be some people that want to speak.
I don't have cards to look at, but I was assuming a lot of the citizen input might be on this question. Maybe staff giving their little presentation and then take citizen input would be good.
Do we know what? Okay, I think that's fine, Mayor.
Okay. So, Mr. Vance, please.
All right, so abbreviated version of the COVID-19 business relief grant proposal. I'll keep this quick. So we went through this earlier during work session. Just to preface, we understand that businesses are hurting right now, and the city is here to help. We know this is a devastating impact on our local communities. Since March 8, we've seen a staggering 296,000 unemployment claims in Oregon, and we know the situation is dire, which is why we crafted and proposed the Small Business Relief Grants program. This is really one lever in a series, I think, of many tactics and strategies that we'll be discussing throughout the coming months. This current phase we're in is shutdown, and following this, we'll have to look at reopening and recovery. So just to put this in context, it's going to be an ongoing conversation on economic response due to COVID. Just a quick look at holistic city assistance programs in response to COVID-19. So over $480,000 have been put towards resources related to COVID assistance, city utilities relief, Shop Small gift card program, and then $400,000 proposed for small business grants. Just a quick chart emphasizing the employee count in Wilsonville. It's a small business city. Over 88% of our businesses have less than 20 employees, and 63% of our businesses have less than 5 employees. So we felt like this category of micro and small enterprise is where we could have the most impact with this program. We discussed the overarching policy decision around impact and whether it's more beneficial to give a little to a lot or a lot to a little. And we designed a 2-tiered program to sort of maximize impact. And so around, if we have a tier of grants at the 2,000 level for micro businesses and 5,000 for small businesses, we think we can reach both scale and impact as best we can with a $400,000 budget. A quick look at some of the other Portland area relief programs. In relation to other small cities, the other small cities had an average fund size of around $260,000, an average maximum grant size of $3,500. So our budget of $400,000 is higher than the average for small cities, and proposed grant size is well within range. I think our program most closely models Portland's program, which had a 2-tiered grant program for micro business at $2,500 and then $5,000 to $10,000 for small business. And then some cities are also coupling this with a lending program. So they're partnering with community development financial institutions and referring businesses over to those nonprofit lenders for loans up to $50,000. So a summary of the program, there's a 3-person task force that came up with a recommendation that was appointed by the city manager 2 weeks ago. It consisted of myself, Councilor Linville, and the Wilsonville Area Chamber of Commerce CEO, Kevin O'Malley. We met about 3 times and discussed a framework to propose to council. The budget we were given was $400,000, $200,000 coming from urban renewal income, and $200,000 coming from transient lodging tax revenue. The urban renewal income would fund general business assistance, and then TLT revenue would fund hospitality businesses such as restaurants, entertainment, lodging. Like I mentioned, we proposed a 2-tiered program, so 2,000 grants for micro businesses defined by employee count, so anywhere from 0 to 5 full-time employees, including sole proprietorships, and then a fixed amount of $5,000 grants for small businesses defined by employee counts ranging from 6 to 20 full-time employees. So the mandatory criteria that we established, businesses must have a current City of Wilsonville business license. That's important. We'll be verifying that. Our business license renew on July 1st and are good until June 30th of the following year. The owner or the managing entity must be based within 25 miles of Wilsonville and within the state of Oregon. So this applies to both local independent businesses and franchises. The business must have a brick and mortar physical facility located in the city of Wilsonville. If selected, they'll need to submit some paperwork, W-9, a tax ID number, and their business license number. And then the employee count at this point, the committee was comfortable with this range of 0 to 20, and there's talk of increasing this cap to 80 employees, and that's a recommendation from the Chamber of Commerce to capture some of our larger employee count restaurants and tourist destinations in town. So the idea is that right off the bat, we'd have eligible or ineligible businesses, and then we would score them with added criteria from this additional considerations sheet. So this is really for tiebreaker considerations, so we can rank all of the applicants and then prioritize the folks at the top of that list. So there's equity and inclusion considerations. So you get a point if you're certified as a minority or women-owned enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise, or a service-disabled veteran. And these are all certifications. So we're asking if you have these, obtain these certifications, then you would receive that added point. We think that legacy Wilsonville businesses could be an indicator of stability. If you've been in Wilsonville for a longer period of time, we think that could be an indicator of weathering the storm and continuing to thrive and employ folks here in our community. So there's 3 tiers. If you've been here for less than 1 year, 1 point, 4 to 8 years, 2 points, and then longer than 9 years, 3 points. And then lastly, we wanted to prioritize businesses that have not received federal, state, county, or other relief funding yet. So including nonprofit funding from groups like the Washington Visitors Association. So excluded from the list, the recommendation was to exclude nonprofits and also virtual and home-based businesses. As of this morning, I got a spreadsheet from our accounting that said we have about 102 home-based businesses in Wilsonville. The logic behind this was that everyone is feeling the pain right now, and we understand that. Brick and mortar facilities and folks that have a physical structure are burdened with commercial rent payments, and we know that's what many of the recipients will be using grant money for at this point, is for mortgage, commercial rent payments, or payroll. Earlier I walked folks through the grant application experience. I don't know if we have to do that again, but it's a 2-page, pretty straightforward application. We're trying to make it very quantitative and very easy to score on the back end. So right off the bat there, we can delineate between eligible and ineligible and then apply the scoring from the weighted considerations area. So this is a topic that will require some discussion with council, is how we want to approach hotels and lodging. It's not an easy decision, and it's hard to define what fair looks like. We know that three of the 6 hotels in Wilsonville did receive a relief payment from Washington Visitors Administration for $10,000. So one idea was to whole the other hotels in the Clackamas portion of the city that did not receive that payment, but that's up for discussion. So do we want to provide grants of $10,000 to those 3 hotels, or do we want to have a strategy that addresses all 6 Wilsonville hotels in the city? So that is a discussion item for council. We talked about 2 different timeline scenarios. It would be very aggressive and challenging to go with the first, which is aiming to disperse funds on April 30th. We think it's important to have enough time for a marketing campaign to make sure businesses in the community hear about this opportunity and they have time to fill out the application. So from what we heard earlier, that could be anywhere from 3 to 5 days, perhaps including a weekend. We'll need a couple days to evaluate the application, and then our finance team needs 3 days to write the checks. So the bottom timeline is most likely more realistic. So that concludes the presentation, and I'll turn it back to council. These are the 3 focus questions that we have come up with. So for the travel tourism category, do we increase the cap to 80 full-time employees to include larger employee count restaurants and tourism attractions? And I mentioned this earlier, but I counted about 77 hospitality businesses in town. So that includes restaurants, entertainment, recreation, and lodging. And about a third of those had above 20 employees. Second question is, how do we incorporate lodging and hotel establishments? And then last, is there other weighted criteria we should consider for tiebreakers? So randomized approval, date of submission, or do we put more weight on other factors like revenue? So this concludes the presentation. I'll turn it back to council for discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vance. This is a maybe exceptionally complex question we're trying to answer in a council deliberation setting, and our council deliberation setting is even made more complex by the fact that we're meeting virtually. I would like to use Robert's rules in order to try to have as organized a way to address this as possible. I would like to take chair's prerogative and make a couple of comments here. First of all, the process that the 3-person committee went through yielded what to me is a very solid kind of a framework or structure on which to try to answer these many questions. I very much appreciate that work, and I think it gives us a direction forward that is appropriate. That said, I would like to see some refinements to some of the specifics in that framework. And under Roberts, we would normally need to have a motion in order to have discussion. So I will take the prerogative to make that motion at this point, and we'll see if we are ready to move forward with that discussion. So,
Mayor Knapp.
Yeah.
Do we need to read the resolutions first?
Yeah, we probably should do that. This is not a formal public hearing on the agenda. That's correct, right?
Yeah, so we'll just read the resolution numbers.
Yeah, so one clarification, Mayor, if I might. So we had one resolution that covered both pots of money for the business aid, and there's a possibility that one or more counselors could be eligible for those funds. And so just to be prudent, I think it makes sense to divide the resolution. Effectively, you'd have the same resolution twice, but one resolution would be for this expenditure of the transient tax, and the other would be for the expenditure of the program income. And then, of course, the third related resolution is for expenditures of funds to help individuals and people in need through community sharing, the community sharing amendment. So maybe I could read the title to, and that would cause us to have a third resolution title. So we'd have two identical resolutions, one for one fund, another for the second fund, and then the amendment for community sharing. Does that make sense? And that will allow anybody that feels like they need to recuse on one, but not the other two.
Yes, it makes sense, except for the details of the structure that we have talked about would not be specific to one or the other. They would kind of apply to both, right?
And that would be fine. It could be the same, you could have the same program attached to both resolutions, but you would just, if a counselor had a conflict, then the counselor wouldn't vote on the one funding source. But I think you can have the same program attached to both. Yeah, I think Kim did do a different resolution number.
So we have 3 resolution numbers possibly, yes. Okay, so we do have 3 different resolution numbers. It just doesn't show on your agenda. It's on the amended one. Yeah.
And you can approve the same program for both, but it gives people the opportunity, if they agree with one to vote for the one and not the other, or if they have a potential conflict of interest, to recuse on one, but not to recuse on the other.
There's actually 3.
All right, so would you please read the one pertaining to the hospitality first?
Yes, I can do that. All right, so that would be resolution, I think it's still
2812.
2812. Is that the one that she said?
Yes, 2812, right here.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that's how she numbered it. Okay, the resolution number 2812, transient lodging tax funds. A resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing a City of Wilsonville small business COVID-19 grant program using the transient lodging tax funds. Do you want me to read the other two so we just get them done? Or at least the other one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the other one is 2811, which is the Urban Renewal Program Income Funds, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing a City of Wilsonville small business COVID-19 program, grant program using Urban Renewal Program Income Funds. And I can wait on the other one until you have this discussion.
Yeah, let's do that. This is going to be complicated enough as it is. So in order to move us forward under the process rules, I will make a motion that we approve resolution 2812 with some modifications, which I will read into the record now. I don't know if council staff would like to keep track of these in order to be able to move forward. We would have the $400,000 as has been previously discussed for the 2 programs, but I would like to use that to fund grants to 165 businesses instead of 133 businesses. The 165 businesses would consist of the 3 Clackamas County hotels located in the city of Wilsonville who have not received a Washington County Visitors Grant, and we would award $10,000 to each of those 3 for a total of $30,000. We would fund grants for small businesses with 6 to 20 full-time employees in the number of 40 grants, which is a different number. It's more than the committee proposed. But each of those grants would be for $4,000 instead of for $5,000. In addition to the 6 to 20 FTE qualifier for these grants, I would place a upper gross gross annual revenue amount of $2 million that would be needed to be not more than $2 million to be met in order for a business to qualify for this. The next smaller category would be what I would call the micro businesses, which is 0 to 5 full-time equivalent. I would propose 85 of those, which is slightly reduced from the 93 in the committee proposal. Each of these would be for $2,000, so that would be a total sum of $170,000. The qualifiers for this category would be 0 to 5 full-time equivalent employees and annual gross revenues not exceeding $750,000. I would create a third tier instead of just the 2 tiers in the original proposal, and would allow home-based businesses that are not just virtual businesses, but actual home-based businesses to receive 40 grants of $1,000 each for a total spend of $40,000. The qualifiers for this category would be that the employee count could be the proprietor plus no more than 1 full-time equivalent employee, no more than $250,000 in gross annual revenue. And in this category, the brick and mortar site requirement would not apply other than that the personal residence from which the business was conducted be in Wilsonville and must be the residence of the owner that applies for the grant. So the change essentially is that we would create a third tier instead of just 2 tiers, and we would redistribute the money slightly. The total expenditure would still be the same. Those 40 home-based, 85 micro businesses, and 40 small businesses, plus the 3 hotels, means that we would give grants to 165 businesses in Wilsonville. Now, in doing that, there's a couple of things that seem to be fuzzy to me, and I would like to clarify under this proposal that if a business exceeded the number of full-time employees or exceeded the gross annual revenue, that would elevate them to the next higher category. In the top category, if they exceeded full-time employees of 20 or exceeded $2 million, they would no longer be eligible to participate in this program. I like the point system that was conducted or proposed, and I would include that point system with a couple small changes. The category of time in business needs to be defined, in my mind, as time in business in Wilsonville during which you have a Wilsonville business license. And the 0 to 3 year category, it seems to me that if you meet the other qualifiers, you automatically have been there for more than 0 years. So I would not assign an extra point for 0 to 3 years. I would say no points there, but if you're 4 to 8 years, I would award 1 point. If you're 9+ years, I would award 2 points. I would maintain the certified woman or minority-owned business for 1 point, certified disadvantaged business enterprise for 1 point, certified service-disabled veteran-owned for 1 point, and I would add a couple of other categories, and those other categories are this, that would help us break this down as to who we would award. The first is if you have a business in which your operations have been restricted by executive order of the governor, that you would receive 1 point. And I'm thinking primarily, but not exclusively, about restaurants that can be doing takeout and delivery, but can't be doing on site. And so I would award 1 point to a business restricted by order of the governor. And then we have businesses that are actually closed by the order of the governor, that there are specific categories that she said that would not be allowed to stay open. And I don't have all those right at the tip of my tongue, but they include, barbershops and nail salons and hair salons and many of those personal service kind of things. And I think that that should qualify for 2 points of consideration. So in that whole structure, we would take the highest number of points within the category, and people would, with the highest number of points, would receive the first award, and with the next highest number of points, receive the next award. And you would go down the list. If you run out of money, then when you get to the bottom, you're going to have to determine who gets the last of the money, and that would need to be done by a lottery drawing. And then you may well get to the point that you get through all the businesses that have points, and everybody left, therefore, has the same point value, and therefore we would have to use a lottery drawing to award those also. So I hope that detail is reasonably clear. I'll be happy to answer questions and discuss if there is a second, but that is my motion. Is there a second? Councillor West.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2812 with amendments to include nonprofits that are associated with tourism and all hotels within city limits.
You can't do that because we've got a motion on the floor right now that has to be dealt with first. Councillor Lehan.
I would be happy to second this and put to rest the concerns of the attorney, because I think I am the one that's under consideration here. I don't know of anyone else who is considered applying for these. I have a vacation rental. I have a VRBO that I've been operating for 6 years, and so I understand what you have laid out here kind of falls into the two programs, right? This covers both the urban renewal and the transient lodge.
That's correct, and I would have to have the same attached to another.
I'm ready to say I will not recuse myself because I will commit to not applying, even though it's pretty clear I qualify. My business has already refunded cash money of $2,000 to cancellations in the spring, and we may end up canceling much of our summer. But I think this is important enough, and under discussion, I would like to discuss a little bit more about my perspective as a hospitality person.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second then, which opens us under Roberts for discussion. I will be happy to answer anybody's questions or anybody's clarification or hear any alternative view, but it's my feeling that the package kind of hangs all together and moves toward a what I perceive as a goal of helping the most fragile small businesses in our community, which are at a scale that our limited funds can actually make a difference to their potential outcome. And I think that is the wisest use of these funds. So, discussion. Anyone that would like to go ahead, Councilor Lehan.
Well, what I was going to say is, I will address, for one thing, the idea of adding nonprofits under tourism. One of the problems with that is, I don't know how far anyone has thought that goes, but it goes pretty far. That would include the Historic Society, any arts organizations, the theater groups. These are all tourism-related things. People come to our community for those things, to partake of those kinds of things. I haven't really looked into how many nonprofits we have out there that might fall under that. But one of the things about most nonprofits, excuse me, I don't think I have COVID, but is that they often have other sources for grants also that small businesses, for-profit businesses, don't have. So even though I'm a member of the Historic Society and support the arts and theater and all that, I don't really think this is the appropriate place, which is for small for-profit businesses. With regards to tourism, my concern with this is that as a hospitality person, I know that people do not come to stay in my VRBO, and they don't, for the most part, come to stay in our hotels because they really like my house or they really like the hotel. They come for the attractions, the events, the things we have going on here. And most of those are outside the city of Wilsonville. If you look at our tourism website, you will see that. They are the wineries, they're wine tours, they're the golf courses, they're the weddings at Langdon Farms. That's a huge one for me. The hop farm, I don't know, the country classic, the county fairs, the Dahlia Festival, the Tulip Festival, all of those are the things that people come here for. And it concerns me as a mini hotelier that if we eat all our seed corn, if we use it all up, and we don't think about these other little businesses, festivals, whatever, then, I'm afraid we have a whole lost year here. It's not just a couple of bad months. Many of these events, like the city of Wilsonville's, are already canceled till Labor Day. So the ability for us to reschedule rooms is really difficult. If we and it might be better to put a little bit of money, or to reserve a little money to get some of these things going again, which originally was the TLT money. As you remember, it was for, and I pay significant amounts in TLT. It was to market and promote tourism in the area. Not in Wilsonville necessarily, but at the Dahlia Festival, for the Aurora Colony Days. We were promoting all of those things on our website and other places. Now, if we're just going to abandon them and say we're just going to use up, I also refer to it. It's like the water to prime the pump. We're going to drink it all now. And what's going to get these little things going again? Because the TLT has stopped. There's nobody traveling. And so I just want to keep that in mind, that you can't just start up these things. And that's why people come. The rodeos are canceled. I don't see how the fairs will continue through the season, and the state fair, they think they're going to still have the state fair. I don't see it, but anyway, that's my concern about us just dumping money on the hotel business, including mine, because the hotels need all of these little things that the TLT used to be part of supporting. And so that's my long-range concern, and I would support this program and write myself out of it on that basis. I might have forgotten something I was going to say, but there it is.
Thank you. Councilor Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I just wanted to consider, to have the council consider in the motion as it is presented is that it's been recommended that there be 40 grants in the home-based business. Even though the dollar figures are different, there's 40 grants in the home-based business category and 40 grants in the 6 to 20 employees. And the two numbers are very different. According to what Jordan gave us in information, there's probably 102 home-based businesses out of which we would fund 40 grants. And in the category of 6 to 20 FTE, there are 257, about 257 according to our chart, businesses, and still only be awarding 40 grants. I think there's a little bit of an inequity there in terms of the numbers of businesses that get funded under the proposal, and would suggest that maybe we rethink those two numbers.
Councilor West.
I would agree with what Councilor Linville just said regarding reconsidering those two numbers. As the motion is read, I would debate that including nonprofits that are tourism related is a small but important part of the tourism industry, and would like to see that included in being funded. There's a likelihood that maybe we won't have anybody ask for those dollars, but then there's more dollars available for other people. And then in my argument for including the Holiday Inn, La Quinta, and Motel 6 is they have participated in collecting those TLT dollars. We don't know from one region to the next or what government entity is actually going to get to business owners. We don't even know if those funds from the federal government are going to get to businesses that need them. We should only be considering, I think, within our scope, which is the Wilsonville city. I think it shows some inequity to just say one county did something and the other one didn't. We could be in a bind if Clackamas County decides to jump in and give our hotels some dollars down the road or other businesses. So I don't think we should necessarily consider what other counties are doing, but we should just treat all of our businesses equitably within the city limits of Wilsonville. Holiday Inn and La Quinta are some of the largest gatherers. They'll be the largest gatherers moving forward of TLT dollars, so helping them being some stability will bring more stability back to the fund in the future, and continuing to have that paid in. Those are I believe our largest hoteliers. And so I don't know, that's my perspective on that to bring to the date, maybe tweak the motion with maybe adding both of those in, or one of them to include the nonprofits associated with tourism or all hotels within city limits are my thoughts. And then I also would like to echo what Councilor Linville just suggested.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councilor Ackervall.
I really struggle with the hotel allocation because I know that there is need for hotels. Every hotel. Hotels that are not in Wilsonville that aren't getting any funds also have needs. I do know, though, however, also that we've heard so much from very, very small businesses And it seems what we've learned in the last few weeks, too, is some of the larger national programs, PPE money, CARES Act, that money is not finding its way to the very smallest businesses that don't maybe have an accountant or a more robust finance staff or more developed relationships with banks. That money is not finding its way to the very small businesses, and it's difficult. It's so difficult because there's money is a finite thing. We have funds to work with, but I can't help but think that $30,000 is $30,000 less for a 0 to 5 FTE, business, or even a 6, these truly very small businesses. It's less funds for those groups within our city, and those, I know that all of council has heard from many small businesses in our city, and I know that we all recognize the character that they bring to our city, the uniqueness that they bring. I know that this program and council wanting to, tackle this difficult quest of trying to figure out what we can do and how we can best do it. We're doing this because we want to try to help, those very entities in our city. So I really struggle. I want to give as much as possible to those very small businesses that they just don't have resources, they don't have staff. Their margins are small in the human capital and financial capital.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Yes, in addressing a couple of concerns here, I just want to say I don't have an objection to Councilor West's suggestion on the nonprofits. I've always been a big supporter of these nonprofits, but so I wouldn't object to including them. But if we're including them, I don't quite know how to include them because I'm trying to figure out a way to include them. They don't really have a gross income to work with, and most of them have no employees. So it's kind of tricky to even say, well, which pot would they be in? Would they also be taking or competing with the home-based businesses? And my problem with that is that the home-based businesses, if we have too many there, let's say we reduce it by, right now it's at $40,000. We reduce it to 35 or even 30, then we freed up $10,000 to go up to the top, which will pick up 2 more people at the top, because that's a $4,000 one. That's so the return isn't quite there. But I understand what Councilor Linville was trying to say. Maybe we want to put a couple more in the 6 to 20s up there at the $4,000 level, and reduce the home base by 5 or 10. That would seem like a reasonable thing to do. I'm not convinced in any way that we should cover the Washington County hotels. Clackamas County, it's very clear from my conversations with individuals in Clackamas County that nothing's coming from Clackamas County. Their tourism department has all but shut down and closed shop and laid everyone off. And I don't see any indication of anything coming out of Clackamas County, so I don't think anybody's going to hold their breath for that one. And those hotels are so big that if they got an extra 4,000 or even 10,000, it's not enough to make the difference. The difference on some of these home-based businesses, and here's the thing, I mean, I understand we don't want to cover just anybody. The business license, I think, cuts out a lot of what I would describe as people making money on eBay. You know, they're buying and selling on eBay, but they probably, and maybe they're making some good money, but they probably don't have a business license. But the ones I'm concerned about are like my hairdresser in Old Town who built an addition onto her house so that she could have 2 chairs, one of which she leases out to another operator. And so she's taken on more debt to have that. It's attached to her house, but it looks like a beauty shop. It looks like a salon. I guess that's what you're supposed to call them now. But I don't know how long she can hold on either. And I don't know if it is putting her house at risk because she has a mortgage to pay that has this home-based business. I guess she'd have to sell her house to someone who also wanted a hair salon on the side. But I'm sure there are home-based businesses like that. The other ones that have been hit hard are the house cleaning services. Those are almost always home-based, and it's usually a couple of women who are going house to house doing house cleaning, and they have pretty much all been canceled because people don't want people in their house, and so those people are at the bottom rung of our income people who, when they're not cleaning a house, just like the person when they're not cutting hair, they're not making money. They have to cut hair to make money. They have to clean a house. They have to do nails, or they don't make any money. They're not salaried people. And right now they are precluded from doing those things. So those are the kind of people I'm most concerned about, their survival in the community and their survival. But I think we are very close to a workable thing. I think we can make some adjustments, minor adjustments here that I think sound really good. I don't know where we are with regards to other input.
Well, we've heard from everybody at least once. So far, the motion I put forward has not been adjusted in any way. Councillor Linville. We're not.
Myself.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. So if we were to make an adjustment and have the dollar figures come out, it would look like funding the 3 hotels as was proposed, 43 grants to the 6 to 20 FTE for $160,000, 85 grants for the 0 to 5. At the $2,000 level, and then 28 home-based businesses at $1,000. No, I don't think that comes out right. I think it would have to be, I'd have to add that again.
Don't we have staff who are good at math?
They're probably a whole lot better than I am. Whole lot better than I am. It doesn't make a huge difference, but I think it's more equitable.
All right, so I think I heard you say you wanted to consider increasing the $4,000 grants by 3, which would be $12,000. And you're proposing to take $12,000 out of the home-based ones, that is now 40 total?
Yeah, that would be 12 less grants in that area, right?
So, so you take that down to 28,000?
Yeah,
Which would be 28 grants instead of 40 at that level.
That's correct.
Are you making that as a motion to amend?
I would make that motion to amend.
We have a motion to amend, as has just been enumerated. Is there a second to the motion to amend?
I'll second.
Councilor West seconds. So we have a motion to amend to increase the expenditures on the $4,000 level by 3 and to decrease the home-based business grants at the $1,000 level by 12. Discussion?
I think that's a reasonable compromise and still keeps us right in there trying to do best by small businesses. Understanding that $1,000 is not going to do much to save someone, and neither is $4,000 for those larger businesses. This is Band-Aid level work at best.
Okay.
At every level, at every one of these levels.
Other comments?
I think it's
Councilor Hackervall?
Well, I would just say I agree. I was kind of trying to do the math as well and pencil out, and the 43, 85, 28 split. I looked at, okay, what if we did 45, 85, but that would bump the home base down to 20, which that's a pretty big bite out of that group because it's a smaller grant, so we have the disproportionate level of reduction, I guess. But I just want to say the task force, thank you, too, for giving us a terrific material to work with, because this is a very hard problem for us to approach and try to crack. So thank you to all of the members of the task force for working on this. And I also want to say, we've heard from so many people in the community, and we recognize that the need is very real on all levels and in all types of businesses. And I'm sorry that this is our reality of what we're facing right now. But I do believe what Councilor Linville has suggested here with a 43, 85, 28, we're trying to reach out to different types of groups, and we're not going to hit everyone, on all the levels. We're not hitting everyone, and that hurts. But there's no silver bullet for this. There's no solution that's going to work for everyone. And so this is, I think, what we're looking at now. It's a varied approach that's, trying to look at different pockets that exist within our city. And I appreciate the value of that.
Thank you. Councilor West.
Yeah, and another, I guess I'll give my shot at this. I would like to move to amend the motion to include nonprofit.
That's out of order. You cannot amend an amendment motion. We have to take action on the motion that's on the floor before anything else can be done.
Okay, so I fully support the, everybody's disappeared. Councilor Linville's motion. I think it just shows some equity, and it's well thought out, and I would echo the other councilors in that.
Okay, thank you. Other comments on the motion to amend? We've lost Councilor Linville's picture. I don't know if she's still there or not.
We've lost Councilor Lehan too.
I've got her.
She's good.
There, we got him back. We got him back. Okay.
I don't know what happened to my video. Lost it.
You're still looking good. That's fine. Yeah. So if we've had the discussion on the motion to amend, I think that we need to vote on the motion to amend, which would change the counts as we have enumerated. Just so everyone is clear, there would be 28 $1,000 home-based awards. There would be 85 $2,000 micro business awards, and there would be 43 $4,000 small business awards, and 3 Clackamas County hotels in the city of Wilsonville awards of $10,000. All in favor, please say aye, or please raise your hand so I can see, because it's really hard to listen. All in favor? I have 5 votes in favor, no opposed. Is that correct? So the motion to amend passes. So we now have the main motion in front of us, and the question is, any further discussion with regard to the main motion? Councilor Linville.
I'm wondering if we should not hear any citizen input, if there is any, before we vote.
Well, that's a thought. We were going to do that earlier, weren't we? And it kind of got sidetracked. Yes, I think we should ask for that. Is there any other discussion that should be had before we ask for input outside? Councilor West.
Okay, as I get used to this very complicated Robert's rules, this is a complicated night. Thank you for bearing with me. I would like to make a motion to amend to include nonprofits that are associated with tourism, such as the ones that were listed by Councilor Lehan earlier, and other nonprofits like the Chamber that are heavily associated with tourism.
Is there point of clarification, if I could, sir? Would that be within one particular category, or how would you?
It'd be to be included in the disbursement of TLT funds to the applicants that can receive TLT funds.
So regardless of size, they would fit into one other or 3 size categories and compete with the other businesses in that size category?
No, I don't think they need to. I don't think they need to be. I'd say 20 employees or less, in that category.
If they have no employees, which category do they fit in?
I said if they have like 20 employees or less, then they should be. You
understand what I'm asking? You know, you're saying that they're competing in the big category no matter how many employees they have, so a whole different set of rules surrounding those?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Am I correct in understanding that most of these nonprofits aren't going to have that many employees, so they could be competing in the smaller category?
What I was trying to clarify is if you were going to let the employee count determine which of the 3 categories they compete in.
It'd be in the micro
yes.
category, 5 or less.
Yes?
Yes, in the micro category.
Well, maybe they got 4 employees.
Right. So they would be competing more in the micro category. I don't think many of them have many employees, but that's probably what's fair.
All right. So your motion is to let the employee count determine which of the 3 categories they would compete in. Do I understand?
Yeah, but it's my understanding that the employee variance is 0 to 20.
Threshold for small business.
Employee is 6 to 20, small category.
Mm-hmm.
Micro is 0 to 5. Small business is 6 to 20.
is 0.
0 to 5?
Yeah.
Without regard to revenues, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so can you state your motion succinctly then, what you...
Yes, let's do this. Yes, thank you. My motion is to amend to include nonprofits that are associated with tourism with the micro category of 0 to 5 employees for TLT dollars.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second to the motion to amend? The motion dies for lack of a second. We're back to the prime motion. Is there discussion on the prime motion? If there's no more discussion on the prime motion, I'm going to ask for the vote on the motion to create the category.
Do you want to take the testimony?
Been amended.
Mayor, do you want to take the testimony first?
Yeah, we wanted to do that, don't we? Here,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm focusing.
It's all right.
Councilor Linville was waving, same reason.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? Testimony.
We have 3. We have 3 people in the queue. Excuse me?
Okay. Can they be introduced? And we give them their 3 minutes on the timer?
Yes, and we sent you a chat message, so you should have all the names.
Mayor, while we're waiting, could I ask you a quick question?
I don't have any names, but go ahead.
Does your amendment include the revenue proposals that you mentioned, the revenue ceilings?
Yeah, everything that he included in his main motion is still, as he stated, I wrote it down. So,
okay.
And we have the tape as well, so,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any chat information that indicates who is, here we go.
Who's first?
Beth Price is wanting to speak. Please, go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Beth Price. I am currently the Director of Sales at the Holiday Inn Portland South in Wilsonville. I'm also the co-chair of the Tourism Committee for the City of Wilsonville. Thank you, Your Honor, and the rest of the council members for letting me speak. I just wanted to have an opportunity to share with you how many people from my hotel, and I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay, have been devastated and impacted by the events of the pandemic. And this actually has impacted the hotel from as early on as February. We saw thousands of dollars in loss of business, and the tourism dollars that we lost were business tourism from companies like Mentor Graphics and Avamere, which are located in. And as your trusted partner who has tried to support the city, been an anchor for the city, who employs so many people within the city, we've actually had to lay off over 90% of our staff. We were down to 5 managers running the hotel for the past month. People want their jobs back. I urge you to reconsider this proposal because, you know what, money is so desperately needed. And as your trusted partner for literally decades, I ask that you take into consideration the fact that Holiday Inn has been your largest contributor to this TLT fund. And the intent of the TLT fund was for tourism. For tourism, we need infrastructure. Without the hotel, that's over 70 jobs. We wouldn't qualify for any funding from Wilsonville. We directly participate with Wilsonville and support Wilsonville. I urge you to reconsider this vote because it's leaving key hotels that employ people in Wilsonville out of the mix. And it's leaving us in a place where we're literally not able to get any additional help. And it just doesn't seem fair. And so I thank you for your consideration and hope that you'll reconsider.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Appreciate your comments. Second person is Sungi Park. Are you available to speak?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, I'm one of the co-owners of the Holiday Inn. My brother and I own the Holiday Inn. We've been owners since 2008. A lot of you have talked about hold on. Okay, there, I started the video. A lot of you have talked about small business owners. We own a big hotel, but we are a family-owned business. We're not a huge corporation. This impacts us directly in terms of what kinds of salaries we make. And more importantly, it impacts 60 employees that we've laid off. 60 employees who now do not have health insurance. And I've heard members talk about, sorry, it's late and I've got a daughter I'm dealing with here too. I've got 60 employees who have lost their health insurance as a result. So I understand you're looking at small businesses being important, small hotels being important, but you know what? We employ many more employees, and we have a much greater impact on those because of the large number of employees. So it really, I'm really very upset, actually, and I take it personally that we are not even considered from the very start as even contenders for the $200,000 budget. We are the largest contributor, and because our payroll is so high, we are a large contributor to Wilsonville's transit tax through our payroll, right? But yet we cannot even get on the leveling playing field for the $200,000 TLT tax. Now, there are other loans out there, and all I hear is talk about Clackamas, whether Clackamas has contributed funds or not to the 3 hotels that are being given preferential treatment. Well, maybe they will in the future, I don't know. But there are other funds, as you stated in that report. There are other grants, like, for example, from the state or from the federal government. Have they received their $10,000 economic injury disaster loan? We certainly have not received our $10,000. So who is vetting all of this out to determine what loans each of the hotels have received and which loans we have not received? Nobody has asked us about whether we received the $10,000 from the federal government. So I don't know how all of that information is being considered. Again, that's one of my comments. The other comment I want to make is about the utility. My understanding is that utility rates are going back up or going up May 1st. And I'm wondering if there's any consideration for actually decreasing those rates temporarily. And I just wanted to make one correction on what Beth said, which is our hotel has not been impacted since February. It's been impacted since January. The first time we got a cancellation was in January. And so
we need to have you wrap up your testimony. You've exceeded your allocated time.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just leave it at that. I just take this very personally.
All right. Thank you very much. We also have waiting to testify Kevin O'Malley. Still on mute. There we go.
All righty. We live?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors. First off, we'd like to say thank you. We appreciate you responding to our Chamber of Public testimony at the April 6th meeting. At that 4-6 meeting, so there's a delay, so we're going to start. So at that 4-6 meeting, you asked us to join a charter team with Councilor Linville and the Economic Development Manager, Jordan Vance, to create a draft. We greatly appreciate the collegial and collaborative effort of Councilor Linville and Jordan Vance, whom we worked with for many hours to develop the proposal you saw this evening. It represents the very best example of what our city and chamber could do when we work proactively to dialogue and craft possible solutions that will help us drive economic prosperity for Wilsonville. Councilor Linville and Mr. Vance have provided you with an accurate representation of our process, and including those areas where we have respectfully had a couple differences. I'd like to try to clarify a couple key points. On record, you have our comments on the hotel situation, and having just heard from that, and because of the time of night, I'm going to simply say you've heard the reason for Holiday Inn and others. We'd like to clarify the question about the 80 FTEs. That 21 to 80 employee count was only to apply to the TLT bucket. In the travel tourism category, the Chamber would like to increase the cap to 80 because the larger employee count restaurants and tourism attractions in Wilsonville fit that category. In travel tourism, besides lodging, the next key area business segments are attractions and full-service sit-down restaurants. In Wilsonville, unless you expand the count to 80, those key travel-related businesses would be excluded. The TLT monies are collected to benefit travel tourism-related businesses. They come with legal parameters, legal strings attached that impact how and who the city can disperse those funds to. Finally, this evening, there was a request about the gross annual revenue. I'd like to share that the charter group spent a lot of time discussing that, and by including it, you are fundamentally changing the entire proposal the Charter Task Force submitted. And Mr. Mayor, I actually had the idea, and I suggested it, and then Councilor Linville and Jordan Vance stepped through it, and we decided not to include it for two important reasons. First, it's very burdensome, and second, it's very complicated. We heard from other cities that no business is going to share financials to the city because their city attorneys told them that whatever is submitted to the city, even though it's private, could be subject to public disclosure later through public records law. Second thing is that you add a big burden on staff. Gross revenue doesn't equal profitability. There are small home-based businesses who operate at 40% margins, and you have million-dollar gross revenue businesses that operate as single-digit. So finally, you don't get what you're logically trying to drive to by adding gross revenue. You actually make it more complicated, more likely for inequity. Finally, we'd like to say thank you to Councilor West for reaching out to us this past weekend at the Chamber to better understand and learn about firsthand from what's happening with our small business community. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We will discuss in general. If that's all the testimony, staff, is there anyone else waiting?
No.
Okay. So a couple of people want to speak. We're trying to be clear here. The discussion at this point should be toward moving toward a vote on the main motion and anything that needs to be done to get us there. So let's try to focus our discussion here if we could. Councilor Linville?
It's muted.
There we go. This is a question for our city attorney. I had a conversation with the city of Lake Oswego that related specifically to the inclusion of revenue information on their small business applications. And they required, I believe, the first 2 pages of their federal tax return for 2019. I believe it was 2019. I can't remember exactly. But the question really comes to our city attorney about the ability in the state of Oregon to suppress that information if it is submitted as a confidential request.
So the answer to that question is, generally speaking, everything in Oregon is subject to public records laws. However, if it's proprietary business information, which you're in your profit and loss statement and income could certainly qualify under that category, then, and it's properly marked as proprietary and confidential, then that's the position you start with. That doesn't mean that somebody can't take you to court and show a stronger public reason for the release of that information, but it switches the burden. So, and in this case, I think that happening would be a fairly low probability if you did get the information and it was properly marked as proprietary, but it certainly could happen, so that is always a risk with public records laws. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Councilor Lehan.
Well, I had similar question because I wasn't certain about the gross revenue, whether that is indeed problematic. Will that make people reluctant to apply because it's there? That would be my bigger concern, is then they wouldn't apply. Now, I know some cities have asked for their W-9s from the previous year, but, we haven't had time to look at anybody else's programs with enough detail to know what worked and what didn't. So they're guessing kind of, and we're guessing, but so I guess I'm kind of looking to staff to say what do they, or what does anybody think the impact of that is, both in terms of privacy concerns and also I guess the second one would be discouraging applications, and the third one would be what's the primary benefit? What's the compelling reason to have it there versus not? And or maybe go back to the mayor. It sounds good on the surface, but as Mr. O'Malley said, it doesn't. Your gross doesn't have much of anything to do with your profitability, and
or the mayor is.
So that I'm just a little bit.
The mayor is why he wants it.
Interpreted on that one.
Okay. Do we want to give staff a chance to comment on that?
It wasn't part of the original task force recommendation, gross income.
We had talked about it. I think, echo some of the comments that Kevin made to try to keep it simple, engage a small business size based on employee count. We've talked about we don't have the resources internally.
Yeah, it's more of a staff issue, and reviewing financial documents, and that would definitely hold up the process. It would not bother us if you got rid of that requirement, but if the mayor feels strongly about it, because he put it in his original motion, I think it does come down to, will we have the ability to figure out, what the profit margins are for each business, and gross revenue can mean, one, like Mr. O'Malley said, it might mean that, they're making a lot of money, but there's not a lot of profit there, and we don't have the resources on staff to go through financial statements we could get there eventually, but it might be 3 months from now. So if you don't feel strongly about it, if the mayor wants to reconsider that, you could certainly remove that as a requirement.
There might be a trade-off. The goal is to get this out the door in 2 weeks. This may add time to the whole process.
Right, yeah. So I guess I would go back to the mayor.
Those were our thoughts initially, too.
Yeah.
We really did spend time discussing it. And I guess we ended on the...
This is Councilor Linville for the record.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. We thought that in lieu of that the number of employees would serve as a proxy for the gross revenues.
Other comments? Councilor West.
I have a question for the chair. Are you willing to entertain additional amendments to add in the 3 hotels, or to make an adjustment also to requiring gross income documentation?
Process-wise, yes, we're open for amendments. It's not up to me to say whether or not that should be made.
Well, then I would like to move to make an amendment to not require gross receipts documentation from businesses due to it, I believe it not being relevant. And then I'd also like to make an additional amendment.
Could I make a suggestion to you that if you combine those two into one motion, you may have somebody that likes one of them and doesn't like the other one, and it's going to be a conundrum. I'd rather, I think it'd be clearer if you kept your motions to one item.
Okay. Are you recommending that I combine them into one motion or just do one at a time?
No, just do one issue at a time.
Okay. Okay, then since we're talking about the gross income documentation requirements, I would like to make a motion to not require gross income documentation to the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Councilor West, seconded by Councilor Linville, that we remove the gross annual revenue qualifiers from the process. Discussion? We've had some already. Any more needed? Councilor Akeball?
I think I think swiftness is important, as we've all heard and discussed. And so if we have to lose this piece to make things move more swiftly, then I see that as a trade-off that I'd be willing to look at.
Okay. Other Councilor Lehan?
And in a similar vein, I would support it because I think that it will have it will be less discouraging to some individuals. Some individuals probably would not apply because of it, and I think we'll get more applicants with it not there.
Other discussion? I'll call for the vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion to remove the gross annual revenue piece from the qualifiers, please raise your hand.
5-0.
I see 5 votes. That's no one opposed, correct?
Correct.
So it passed 5-0, removing that qualifier. Is there other discussion to be had on the main motion? Councilor West.
I'd like to move to amend the motion to include all hotels within the city limits of Wilsonville.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion so that we can have some discussion.
Okay, moved by Councilor West, seconded by Councilor Linville. Discussion. Councilor Linville.
I can tell you that this was a very difficult discussion for all three of us on the committee, and I have the care and the concern for those hotels, and it was a difficult issue. I believe that. While I think any money is better than no money, the idea of making the other hotels whole in times when this money is just not going to go that far, and the balance of this means taking another $30,000 from small businesses in the travel, tourism, and hospitality businesses, and that was difficult for me to do as well in terms of trying to decide. And it is the reason that this came to the council as something that we couldn't agree upon. So I'm struggling with it too. I think that it is equitable to make those other 3 hotels whole. They were just as unfortunate as the other hotels were fortunate to get that first $10,000 from the Washington County Visitors Association. But I recognize that that's where the TLT bigger dollars are coming from in terms of passing those taxes collected, and it does go to their bottom line. So I'm unfortunately, probably this is one of the most difficult parts of the discussion, and that is to only fund the 3 hotels.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Yes, I want to make it clear that I, like everyone else, I have great regard for every hotel because they're all in a world of hurt, and this is not. This is going to be a very difficult year. We're not going to come out of this in this year, and for those bigger ones, I'm really glad they got the $10,000 from Washington County Visitors Association, but we can't. It's not going to make the difference for those very large businesses. And I noticed, I don't see it in my notes right now, but I noticed in looking at what some of the other jurisdictions have done, that it's not an uncommon criteria that they don't want to give to someone who's already received. And I think one of those is Washington County, wasn't it? Washington County wasn't also funding entities that had gotten money from Washington County Visitors Association. So that notion is in keeping with how a lot of jurisdictions have approached this. They're either not providing additional funding to those who have been funded by the federal government or the state or whatever. So I don't think it's an unusual criteria to make there.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Are we ready to vote on the motion to amend? I will call for the vote on the motion to add the other 3 hotels to the 3 Clackamas County hotels.
Mayor?
Is that right?
Mayor, real quick, I think Councilor West's screen froze up, and I think he wanted to weigh in. He doesn't have audio right now. He's trying to connect to audio. There he is. Okay.
Councilor West, you there? Okay, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like, am I unmuted?
You're
unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my headphone and phone just totally died, so I had to switch over to computer. I'm glad it's working better now. If this is where some of us are probably going to disagree, but we all have good justifications, I feel like, for why we have the opinion or the decision that we're making right now, which is super tough. I feel like to be the most fair, because we don't know who's received any federal money yet. We don't know who's received other grants or whatever they're get a hold of or every situation. But here it feels a little bit like we are picking some winners and losers and not being as equitable. I think being within our scope, can you hear me okay? I think
you're kind of cutting in and out, but
as a city with who's within our, I'll do the best I can. Within the scope, can you hear me?
No.
No. Can you guys hear me?
No.
It says Councilor West's bandwidth is low. It says your bandwidth is low. I really know what
You're frozen again.
Can you guys hear me?
Barely.
No.
I'm frozen again.
It's a call.
Get back on the phone.
Here, let me grab a phone. Hold on.
Oh, we can hear you now. Stay right there.
Yes.
Nope, frozen.
So, for staff, did the motion clarify where the funds would come from to do the additional proposed awards?
Are you talking about, what are you talking about? Which awards?
Well, wasn't the motion that Mr. West made to provide funding to 3 additional hotels for a total of 6?
That would come out of the TLT dollars. So you would be funding fewer small business grants if you took that 30,000 off the top.
Well, so in keeping with our prior protocol where we defined exactly what was going to be reduced in the process of describing what was going to get increased, we didn't get that information, did we?
No, there was no math involved. It was just a motion. If you accept the motion, then we'll have to revisit the main motion because we're going to have to reduce the other grants.
So I don't know if, Councilor West, are you getting the phone or not?
Is he there? No. What's behind him? Is he calling in?
Maybe you can call him and just put him up to your speaker.
Yeah, let me see.
These young people and technology. It's a struggle.
Ben, answer your phone. Answer your phone.
Hi, you've reached Ben West, Wilsonville City Councilor.
His phone died?
Yeah, that's what he said. He's trying to find another phone.
Oh, well, I can't help him.
I don't know how we do this meeting this way.
Can he plug the phone in? Can't he, you know?
Charger?
Do you have a phone charger?
Things like, you just plug it in.
Andy, do we have a landline he can call?
Well, his phone is dead.
No, but does he have a landline besides the cell?
We're assuming. I would say no. He's calling.
I'm plugged in wired for sound over here.
Do you have service in here? Because I didn't.
Hi, you've reached Ben West.
Yeah, you
I got this one. I got this one.
I know.
And I got my computer. The big guy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. I get the award for being the most challenging tonight. I apologize.
Plug your phone into a charger while you talk.
I know, it was my bad. So it's a long meeting. So let me, I'm commenting on my motion. That's where we're at, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I feel a little bit like a lot of us have good reason to believe what we believe right now. There's definitely some variation and some heavy consideration going on. I really feel like we don't know what businesses necessarily have or have not gotten support in general from different various. We know some, we may not know others, of different pools of money that people have received some support from. I think that when we look at how all of our businesses that are in one group within the TLT, like all the hotels are really similar, all have contributed for so many years to the benefit of Wilsonville. And the ones that we happen to be excluding, like we said, just also happen to be the most stabilizing factor for our TLT dollars even moving into the future. So there is a lot of benefit to us saying, we're going to just look at this as a total group within our scope of our city, not worry about where other funds have come in, and provide provide them the support that they desperately need as everybody else. I think that we could find a carve out or help or hope for that additional dollars to make it fair and even. So I would, really challenge us to be able to make that additional stretch or expense to be able to make sure that all hotels are getting the same amount from us.
So Mr. West, in keeping with the former protocol that we have used, where do you want to reduce in order to fund your proposal?
It's a good question.
Well, it seems to be if we're spending $400,000 and you're proposing to spend $30,000 more somewhere, then you got to come up with $30,000 from somewhere.
So I would propose that we reduce the amount that would be going to the non-hotel entities within for the TLT dollars. So initially, statutorily, TLT dollars. Go ahead.
The proposal currently has $172,000 going to the small business 6 to 20 FTE at $4,000 each, and it's got $170 going to 85 awards to micro businesses at $2,000 each, and it's got $28,000 going to 28 awards in the home-based at $1,000 each. Where do you want $30,000 to come out of?
The largest fund.
172 for 6 to 20 FTE?
Yes.
That would reduce that to 142. That would remove 35 and a half, 30, that would remove 36 from the 43, so that would only leave 7 awards in the $4,000 category. Correct?
Or I'd even another idea maybe is to take it equitably from all the different pools within TLT.
You need to make your motion specific, sir.
So I moved to take it evenly from the FT from the two larger pools of money that you mentioned. So to split it evenly between those two larger pools and the smaller businesses that have the least amount of grants going to them, to leave that the way it is, but to take the funds from equally from the other two pools.
So that would leave 167,000 in the small business category, and it would leave 155,000 in the micro business category.
Frozen.
So that would leave 40. No, that can't be right.
Are you guys there?
We can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
$157, not 167. 157. That would leave 39 awards in the $4,000 category.
I don't.
38, though.
No. Yeah, it's not that many.
80. Don't we have staff who know how to do math?
Yes.
Well, I'm just trying to have
We can do the math.
clear. Yeah, staff, tell us what it means.
Well, if vote on the motion and then we'll do the math.
I think people need the information to vote on the motion.
Your Honor, may I
It's going to be 15,000 less for
make
each
a
program.
statement? Right.
Okay.
Do you want to, wait, hold on, our finance director is good at math, and she's going to sit down and walk us through the math.
It'll take me a few minutes here. I don't have a calculator.
Got my phone.
That would leave 39 $4,000 awards and 77 $2,000 awards.
Mr. Mayor, I think we talked about having 172,000. Isn't that correct in that category?
Yeah, and you're taking 15 off of that.
And minus 15,000 equals 157 divided by 4,000.
Yep.
And that's 39. And then
39.
Yeah, and so then the other one's correct as well. So I guess the other option that I'm really struggling with taking those monies off for a single business. There is a possibility of cutting all of those hotel loans or the hotel instead of 10,000, giving them all 5.
Okay, that's not the option currently.
No.
So the motion that we had was to add $30,000 to cover all 6 Clackamas County hotels at $10,000 each. We now have clarification from the maker that he wants to take half the money from the small business category, leaving 39 awards there at the 43, and half from the micro business category, leaving 77 awards instead of 85. I lost Mr. West somewhere, but I believe that's accurate. Is the second on board that that's the motion? Councilor Linville?
Yeah, I'll leave it to the, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to need to vote on. Councilor Lehan?
Yeah, so it's, are we agreed then that would be 11 small businesses that are not being funded?
No, I think it's 15.
Yeah.
Got too many members.
15 that aren't being funded?
I think it's a difference of 15 grants that would not be able to be awarded in order to give the 1 grant, or not the 1 grant, but the 3 grants, yeah.
1 grant for those 3.
I mean, it was 15 net, I think.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
15.
So we would lose 15 grants, yeah.
And those are 15 businesses that are in the hospitality industry. You know, I just don't see it. I'm in the hospitality industry and I don't see it.
Thank you.
We need to support those, as this is for small businesses, and that's what the chamber has told us from the beginning, was this is for small businesses. We need to take care of our small businesses, and that's what we're trying to do. And if we're going to cut 15 of them out, so that we can, I'm not there.
Well, now we've got an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know what that's doing for us.
Okay, if council can see the scene, we can play around this sheet. We can play around with the numbers. So if the remaining 30...
Sir, I'm not sure this is helpful. We've got a motion. We've got a clear statement of where they want the money to come from. We need to vote on this motion to amend.
Spreadsheet is gone.
Councilor West, can you hear us?
Sorry, I got kicked out 4 times and this phone disconnected. And
can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we lose 11 awards. We're taking
15. We lose 15.
We lose 15. We lose 15 small business awards.
I think, yeah.
Half the money from the 2,000 category and half from the 4,000 category.
I'll change my motion. I'll change that motion to be,
we can't keep doing this for hour after hour. We've got a motion. We need to vote it up.
Okay. I would be, so you asked me if that's where I wanted to come from, the 2 pools like that. I would keep that the same, but instead of them being $10,000 each, just make them 7.
Well, that changes everything. We got to recalculate all the numbers then.
Too much math.
And then what we lose. That doesn't add up to $30,000.
No.
No, they all get 7 instead of.
If you do by a multiple of it,
21,000. And
you can make it all.
it still doesn't get us where we want in terms of equity with all the hotels. I mean, the Clackamas County ones are shortchanged because Clackamas County is not coming through on this. If you've heard otherwise, I'd like to hear about it. But.
So we've currently got a motion on the floor and a second, and we've had discussion. Unless the council is going to do something different, we're ready to call for a vote. I'm not hearing anything different. I'm going to ask for the vote on the motion to amend to add $30,000 to cover 6 Clackamas County hotels in Wilsonville at $10,000 apiece. Half the money coming out of the small business category, half coming out of the micro business category. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. Motion fails, 1 in favor, 4 opposed. We have the main motion in front of us still. Do we need more discussion on the main motion? As amended? If we are not needing more discussion on the main motion, I'm going to call for the vote on the main motion. The amended version funds 28 $1,000 awards in the home mix category, 85 $2,000 awards in the micro business category, and 43 $4,000 awards in the small business category, and 3 $10,000 awards to the 3 Clackamas County Wilsonville hotels. All in favor of the motion, please say aye, or please raise your hand.
No, it looks like there's confusion.
What's the question? What's the problem?
I thought that we had changed the numbers for the we went to 438528 instead of.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Only I said
2885.
I went the other direction. 288543.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Does staff have all of this down?
Yes, but that's the reaction of the night right there. We got it.
We're ready to vote.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion to adopt this proposal as the framework for the awards, please raise your hand.
Councilor, okay, yeah, he got it. We got it, 5.
Did we get it?
That's 5 in favor, is that correct?
Yes.
I can't, everybody's, everything's freezing up. I don't know if you guys can see me.
Yes, we see you raising your hand. 4.
Thank you. It's just all difficult right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 5 in favor. It's unanimous for that proposal. We now need to duplicate the same thing for the funding source. Nope. I got to get my...
No, we don't need to do that.
So you can make your motion exactly the same. The only difference is it's going to be for the program income fund. And
right.
So unless there's
I'm going to make the motion that we adopt resolution 2811 for the urban renewal program income usage, utilizing the same parameters, the same criteria that we have just adopted for resolution 2812.
except for the hotels.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. The only difference would be this does not have hotels in it.
Oh, that's right.
We have to change the numbers.
Yes, because this one has no hotels.
Okay, so adopt the same protocol with the exception that the county hotel boards are not part of this.
Well, isn't it all the hospitality industries?
Right, this motion is for the other
Isn't
businesses.
this not for hospitality?
Yeah, this would remove all the hospitality people.
Yes.
Same framework, minus the hospitality.
The generals.
Yes.
Yes,
This is the general, right? The general businesses.
General business.
Hang on, does staff agree that that's the correct way to frame it?
Yes, this is the general business grant, non-hospitality.
All right, so the motion will be that we adopt Resolution 2811 with the same framework except excluding the hospitality funding source. And is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Councilor West seconds. Do we need more discussion on the framework? Councilor Linville.
I don't believe we can go with the 28, 85, 43 for those three categories because we now have an additional $30,000 to dump into that fund because we're not spending it on the hotels.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's why I was trying to ask staff if that's the right terminology to do it. It seems to me that we could adopt the same framework and instruct staff to separate the funding sources appropriately.
No, it's the program income.
Do you have?
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yeah, hang on a second. This is what?
That's the one.
43.
That doesn't make sense to me. Hang on, I'm looking here.
Sorry.
Right now we have,
I guess I need some
hang on.
clarification.
Yeah, I think I might have it here. The micro business ones are the $2,000, right? That's $170,000. The 6 to 20 would be 43 for 172, right?
Right.
And then you'd have the 30,000 for the 3 Clackamas County hotels.
No hotels in this one.
No. Yeah, but 172 plus
But
170.
that total proposal is 400.
Plus 30 for the hotels, that's the 400.
Yes.
Right there.
Yes. That's what I was trying to say
So
just now.
the totals that we just gave for all the grants, that's for hospitality and for small.
Yes.
And that's why it's confusing. It affects the pool even greater for the hospitality than to remove it.
I agree that's true, but talking to staff here, can we just adopt the framework and instruct staff to differentiate the funding sources that go to whichever program they should go to in accordance with the previous staff report that we're adopting as part of the resolution?
Yes, please. We understand what you're wanting to do. We understand perfectly how you want to allocate the money. So if you would just empower us to do that, we would be happy to do it.
Okay, so the motion I'm making again, or as a replacement, is adopt Resolution 2811 using the attachment of the same funding program that we just adopted under 2812, instructing staff to direct the appropriate pieces of the funding sources to the appropriate uses as previously defined in our staff analysis and report attached to there.
Yes.
Is that right? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mayor moved, Council President Akkerval seconded. Discussion?
We're losing Councilor West again.
Did we lose him again?
Councilor Lehan.
Well, I will apologize for creating this dilemma. Because they were separated in case I was going to recuse myself.
Correct.
Yeah.
They really are all one thing. We ended up discussing it all as one thing.
Yeah.
And now it's got us all confused.
Well, I think we're on track now.
There you go.
All right. Any other clarifications needed? Councilor Linville?
Hear me?
Well, I'm confused about saying, when we say we're going to just, according to the other funding model, I don't know what that means. We have an additional 30,000, and so...
No, the funding model is the combined. We don't have any additional.
No, there's no additional money.
Using both sources, and it's just a matter of which funds are directed to which total.
We're still giving $30,000 to hotels, just the Clackamas County hotels. So there's no additional money.
There's no additional money. All we're doing with 2811 is indicating 2812 also includes Urban Renewal Program income funds. They were part of 2812. We figured them out as part of 2812. And so all we need to indicate is the urban renewal is folded into 2812. There's no new money in 11 or whatever.
Correct.
We just spent it all.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Councilor West has been coming in and out. I don't know how we're going to get him to
We
vote.
can just go back to the original resolution.
Hey, can you guys even hear me? I have bad
can hear
cell
you
and
right
bad
now,
internet.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay, I have really bad. I don't even know. I lost the last 5 to 10 minutes of conversation. I have no idea what was said.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mayor.
We're ready to vote on 2811, and we've clarified that the framework we adopted under 2812 was defining the framework to be used by both resolutions, and staff will figure out which source goes to which grant usage.
Are we voting right now?
We're ready to vote.
While you can hear me, I'll be a yes vote. Yeah, while you can hear me, I'm a yes vote.
You're a yes vote. Okay. I will ask then. All in favor, please raise your hand. I have 4 raised hands and a voice vote from Councilor West. We have unanimous 5 in favor, no opposition. We now have a third resolution dealing with
community sharing.
28 was the personal and family support flowing through the modified Wilsonville Community Sharing Program that we had pulled out of the consent agenda.
So shall I read that resolution for you?
Yes, we should read that resolution.
Right. Resolution number 2810, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing a second amendment to the Wilsonville Community Sharing Support Grant Agreement.
Is there any question or clarification needed by council with regard to resolution 2810? Is there a motion on resolution 2810? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move approval of resolution number 2810, second amendment to Wilsonville Community Sharing Support Grant Agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Akval seconds. Main motion by Councilor Linville, second by Councilor Akval. Any further discussion needed on this? I'm hoping Councilor West can still hear me. I'm not sure if he can.
Mayor, I can still hear you, and I can hear.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote on the motion to approve resolution 2810. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye if you're not on video.
Aye.
I see 4 hands, and I hear a aye from Councilor West. So that is a unanimous 5 in favor, no opposition. Okay. Where does that take us back to now?
Consent. Unless you want to do councilor comments, and you need to make a vote here in about 13 minutes, too.
Shall we do consent quickly?
I know we do.
We can do consent real quick.
Yeah. We don't have any other citizen input, correct?
Nobody in the lobby, virtual or otherwise.
Okay. Are councilors feeling the need to comment tonight, or can we leave that for next time? Don't need to comment?
I do not need to comment.
Okay. We'll move to consent agenda, and we could ask for that to be read. It now consists of 3 items.
Okay. Consent agenda, resolution number 2787, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a goods and services contract with Pipeline Video Inspection LLC, DBA Ames Companies for the closed-circuit TV inspection service project. Resolution number 2800, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a goods and services contract with HMI Oregon Dealership, Inc. for the library furniture project. Resolution number 2806, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute the First Amendment to construction contract with Moore Excavation for the Garden Acres Road and PLM 1.2 water transmission line project.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I second.
Councilor Lehan, second by Councilor West. Consent agenda gets no discussion. All in favor, please raise your hand if you're on video and say aye if you're, oh, there you are on video. Councilor West, are you?
There we go.
I'm here, I think. I'm a yes either way.
Okay, thank you. That's a 5 approval, no opposition for consent agenda. Doing business, we've got public hearings.
Really?
And we've got a very few minutes. I don't know how fast we can go on this. We shall see. So if we could ask for public hearing on resolution 2809.
Resolution number 2809, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2019-20.
Are these going to be something we can do, call all at once, or need to be separate?
The public hearings need to be separate because they're 2 different issues.
They're completely different, yeah.
One's the land use.
Okay, so I need to read the hearing information. I call to order Wilsonville City Council public hearing on Resolution 2809, as has just been read. Ladies and gentlemen, Council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format, which will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present the report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card from the counter at the side of it, simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Your Honor. This is Kathy Rodacher, the Finance Director, and tonight is a special supplemental budget adjustment to provide the funding for the programs that you just approved. It would be $200,000 for the Tourism Development Grant Program and the $50,000 from the Wilsonville Community Sharing. The $200,000 would be coming from the contingency of the general fund, and the $50,000 is being transferred from the water CIP fund, where we keep the lease revenues that we've been receiving from TVWD. And those are the 2 items.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff? I'm seeing none. Sorry, can't give you any questions. Council, what's your, no, let's see. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak with regard to Resolution 2809?
No, we have no one.
We have no public testimony. I will close the public hearing and ask Council, what's your pleasure with regard to Resolution 2809?
Your Honor, I move to approve. What happened?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You have to say a number.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2809.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor West. Second is
Somebody second it?
I said second. Lehan said second. I don't know, maybe somebody else did.
seconded by Councilor Lehan. Any other discussion? All in favor? Your hand.
5-0.
Passes 5 in favor, no opposition, bringing us to ordinance number 841.
Ordinance number 841, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville adopting text amendments to the Wilsonville Comprehensive Plan and Development Code regarding the planned development residential and PDR and residential R zones.
Thank you. We'll call to order a Wilsonville City Council public hearing on ordinance number 841 as has been just read. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format. The hearing will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed ordinance. If you wish to testify, please complete a signature card from the counter at the side of the room and give it to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I do request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given, simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is sufficient. Is there a staff report?
Yes.
There is. How short do you want me to make this? Okay. Good evening. Dan Pauly, Planning Manager. And as we've talked about earlier, the Planning Commission, City Council has worked on this a lot. I won't go into this in much detail unless you really want it at this hour, but really want to acknowledge that there has been a lot of work that has gone into this ordinance, and I would announce that the applicable criteria are in the packet and available on the city's website. So this is really trying to fix some issues that we've identified over the last couple of decades working with the code. And let me share my screen and just show a couple things on the slides real quick. So we're really trying to continuous improvement, make the code more clear and objective, make sure it's feasible to implement the zoning standards we have. And also, the city's grown up. It's really gone from having more opportunities for these smaller scale infill projects, and we wanted to make sure the code worked better for those projects. It's most applicable to about 63 acres in the city. It could also apply to some new urban growth areas. The two areas that it really focuses on is density calculations on lot size and open space requirements. And these reflect all the input that we've gotten from council and the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission supported unanimously. I'll click through here to just show kind of what the end result is. With an example of a 2-acre development, we define how you calculate density. First of all, we made sure that it's all consistent, that the way that it's described in the comprehensive plan translates well to how it is put in the development code, and that ends up then once you have those numbers, how you calculate it, it's based on gross development area, which is the area of the site outside resource areas in the SROZ and BPA easements. And we also changed things to make sure that, particularly we worked with lot size to make sure under typical circumstances that everything adds up, that you can meet all the standards that we have in the city's code with the amount of available land. So that did cause, I'll highlight this, that we did change some minimum lot sizes in some of the zones to make sure that the math can work. Also added a defined process that when the math doesn't work, that how we adjust it, which as requested by council does emphasize open space first, and that so we adjust lot size before we adjust shared open space. We make the code easier to read. Talking about open space, that's one of the most significant policy changes here, going from really a tiered approach to a percentage approach, which just how that works in this example is It's 25% of the gross development area, which this is 1 acre of gross development area on a 2-acre site, so that's a 1/4 acre of total open space, which means half of that would be need to be usable programmed open space. And how that looks here is you can put that usable open space has to be outside the SROZ, but that open space that's just the general open space can't be in the SROZ. And we also added some requirements to make sure that open space is usable to make sure that if we're preserving land for open space and that there's cost into that it's professionally designed and has value. So based on staff's work on this and the work of the Planning Commission, the recommendation of course is to adopt Ordinance 841 as presented. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Council, any questions? Anything for staff? We talked about this quite a bit previously. If there's no questions for staff right now, I will call for any public testimony. Is there any member of the public to testify?
Still no one.
Still no one. I will close the public hearing on ordinance number 841 and ask council, what is your pleasure with regard to this ordinance?
Your Honor, I move we approve ordinance number 841, an ordinance. Do I need to read the ordinance?
No, you don't need to read it, just by title. Motion by Councilor Linville. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Ackerval. Discussion. Any more discussion needed? Everybody good to go? I will ask for the vote. All in the favor, can't even talk. All in favor of ordinance number 841, please raise your hand. I see 5 hands. We are all in favor, no opposition. Ordinance is adopted. Bringing us to city manager business. Well, now wait a minute. I'm going to ask for a motion to continue meeting so we can do our urban renewal. Perhaps a motion for another 15 minutes or something?
Yeah, it shouldn't take much more than 15 minutes.
Your Honor,
I move.
Oh.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I move that we extend our meeting until 10:15.
Second.
Moved and second, we extend meeting time till 10:15. All in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. West?
Can you see me? I'm a yes.
You're a yes. Okay, so that's
I'm a yes. I'm a yes.
5 in favor, no opposition on that. Now, city manager business, anything?
Just one quick thing, Mayor. We had talked earlier about city-sponsored events, and the one thing I neglected to ask about was the Rotary concerts in the park. And I'm not sure how you're feeling about that one. Again, that's a large gathering in Town Center Park.
I don't see how we can do that, given the logic of what we just decided.
Well, that's how I feel, but there was some discussion about non-city sponsored events, or non-city events, so I would like to hear you out on that, if you have any concerns. Otherwise, we can convey.
Council, do you think the city should go ahead with holding the concerts or not go ahead with holding the concerts? Councilor Lehan.
Well, that one is a little bit different because it is more like a joint city Rotary concert. I mean, I realize it's a Rotary concert, but it always involves a lot of public works people and park staff who are involved in those concert productions.
There's also direct aid given through grants.
Huh?
I said there's also direct aid given through grants, city grants, so. I felt you would feel that way, so that's what I would need to hear.
Yeah, I think that's a joint deal.
Okay.
All right, so we would not hold the concert going forward. We've got agreement?
Yeah, okay.
Do I see nodding heads?
That's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
So I wanted to ask you just briefly, Mr. Cosgrove, if you could tell us how the gift card program originated, because I've heard some positive things about it, and it's fairly unique. I have not seen any other community doing that. So can you tell us on a fairly brief way?
A fairly brief way, it came up in one of our incident command meetings in our Emergency Operations Center. We were just kind of brainstorming how we could get some money out there into the business community quickly, but try to achieve multiple policy objectives, because we knew that we had a homeless population and families in need. So we just kind of started brainstorming, and 3 or 4 people kind of came up with the idea, and I authorized it almost the same day. So it was literally just a conversation that started, and by the end of the meeting, we had a program that we had some seed money available, so that we just went forward with it. And right now, we have over 35 small businesses, restaurants that are involved. We've distributed 330 gift cards to Wilsonville Community Sharing, 60 to the police department, and we spent about $17,500, and we have gotten a lot of good PR from local restaurants on that. So
that's really nice. It's really nice. It sounds like we may need to think about capitalizing that here before too long.
Yeah, we have a way to track, and we're working with the vendors, so we'll be coming back to you probably for some more money down the road here.
All right, sounds good. If nothing further from the city manager, any legal?
I think you guys have had enough for tonight. Good job.
You think? You think?
I'll give you
that being the case,
I'll give you one quick good news legal. We did get our motion to abate on the Clackamas County Circuit Court case granted, and the judge declined to rule at this point on the motion to intervene, saying that will be decided a year from now when the motion to abate expires, if we don't end up dismissing sooner. So that was a good victory for us.
Okay. All right, very good. I'm going to call us adjourned at 10:04 p.m. on City Council meeting, and unless somebody needs to take a minute or two, we can move directly into urban renewal as soon as the city recorder is ready to go into urban renewal.
She's ready.
Now, I don't have... I don't have an agenda in front of me. Maybe I can wing it.
I got you here, Mayor. You got roll call, citizen input, and then we have 2 items on consent, and then we have the public hearing. So if you want to do a roll call real quick.
All right. Well, let me call to order Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency meeting for April 20th, 2020 at 10:05 p.m. and request a roll call, please.
Member Linville?
I didn't hear that. Was that me?
Member Linville, are you present?
I'm here.
Okay.
Member West?
Member West, are you present?
Present.
Member
Can you hear me?
Can hardly understand Kim.
I'm present. I'm here. I'm present.
Okay. Go ahead.
Member Ackerval?
Present.
Member Lehan?
Here.
Chair Knapp?
I don't care. I can be either one.
Chair Knapp?
I'm present also. Thank you.
Citizen input.
So, full complement. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak?
We have no one from the public still.
No one from the public still. So next item is
Consent agenda. Minutes of the February
consent agenda.
Minutes of the February 3, 2020 URA meeting. Resolution, URA resolution number 305, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency authorizing the city manager to execute the First Amendment to construction contract with Moore Excavation, Inc. for the Garden Acres Road and PLM 1.2 water transmission line project.
Is there a motion from the board on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Ms. Lehan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Linville. Let's see, this is consent, so no discussion. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Raise my other hand.
Councilor West? Mr. West?
Yes, we got
okay.
it.
Passes 5
Yes.
in favor, no opposition. Additional item of business?
We have a public hearing, resolution number 306, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2019-2020.
So I will call to Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency public hearing on what has just been read. Ladies and gentlemen, the agency will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format conducted as follows. First, staff will present a report, then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card from the counter side of the room and give it to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, make your statement. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given, simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is sufficient. Ms. Rodacher?
Yes, thank you. So this is the urban renewal side of the funding for the COVID-19 business grants. We have $165,000 coming from the West Side Project Income Fund and $35,000 from the year 2000 program income. And on the west side, we did have to restate the beginning fund balance as we had thought we were going to be spending that money last year, but it turned out we did not need it. So we have the additional funding is available. And on the year 2000, it's just coming from their contingency.
Okay. Tell me the resolution number again.
306.
306?
Correct.
Okay. Urban Renewal Board, any questions for staff about Resolution 306? Not seeing any questions. Is there any member of the public that wants to testify?
Still no one.
Still no one. Going once, going twice. I will close the public hearing on Resolution 306 and ask the board, what is your pleasure with regard to this resolution?
Mr. Chair, I move.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 306.
Motion by Mr. West. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehan. Discussion? Don't see any requests for discussion. I will ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 306, please raise your hand.
We will just add it to this one because it was both programs.
We're waiting for Councilor West here to show or tell us something.
Councilor West?
I'm a yes. I'm a yes.
Councilor
and I'm
West,
waving,
yes?
and I'm a yes.
I see.
Waving and a yes.
We're unanimous, 5 in favor, no opposition. Next item is
adjournment, but before you do, Mayor, I feel horrible about this. Earlier, we were supposed to pay tribute to one of Wilsonville's finest citizens.
Oh, yeah.
We would like to do that. I didn't know Mr. Holt extremely well, but I had the pleasure of getting to know him while he was on the budget committee, and the word that comes to my mind is just the ultimate gentleman. So we have a little tribute that we would like to pay, and I know that Councilor Lehan knew him very well, and I think that you had some words that you wanted to share. Maybe that will get to his family. And also, if there's in lieu of a situation that we become aware of, we'll probably make a donation on behalf of the city to in Mr. Holt's honor.
That would be very nice. I would like to say a couple of words. Tony worked with us in multiple capacities. He was instrumental in encouraging the Charbonneau community toward participating in the public processes and the politics. And Tony ultimately ended up on our budget committee, I think, 3 different times, or a couple of times, and then was away for a while and came back for another term. He was a consummate professional, soft-spoken, knowledgeable, capable person that I just cannot speak highly enough of. I think he was a wonderful, wonderful part of our community, and his loss here this last weekend was just a real blow. So it is a tough time, but he is an employee of the real quality people that we have in Wilsonville, and we cannot thank the man enough and pass our condolences and our prayers to his family. Councilman, would you like to?
Well, I would just add that it wasn't just the city of Wilsonville that he was involved in. He was on the Aurora Airport Management Committee, the PAM committee for the airport. He was a member of the Wilsonville Chamber Government Affairs Committee for 7 years, and he worked on protecting French Prairie, protecting French Prairie farmland, and pretty much anything to do with the city of Wilsonville. He was a supporter and an intellect at the highest level. So he testified in Salem, testified at Metro. That picture is a picture of him testifying from Charbonneau for the Sun River testimony 6 months or so ago. So he was always there for his community, even when his health was failing. So we appreciate everything that he's done for us.
Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I would also like to just forward, in addition to Tony's leadership with the city and with our local areas, he put endless hours into ensuring the quality of life in the Charbonneau area. He served 15 years on the country club board and headed up the Civic Affairs Committee, which was really beyond what we've had in terms of dealing with issues that relate to development in adjacent to the south of Miley Road and numerous committees and commissions, and he was the president of the country club board from 2015 until 2019, and only stepped down because of his health issues. He is just revered in this community, and he will be missed greatly.
Absolutely. In addition to all those professional things, he was a heck of a nice guy and a very enjoyable person to be around.
Yeah.
So we will miss him, and condolences to his wife, who is also not in not too strong a health at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for putting that together and reminding us there, Mr. Cosgrove. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Lots and lots of work tonight, Council. I'm proud of being able to work through that with all of you. I appreciate your thoughtful comments and your investment in positive outcome. I think this is going to be good for the community, even while we know it's not a solution or a final answer, it is a help. So thank you all.
If I could just reiterate also, because I'm one who didn't say it earlier, but to thank Councilor Linville and the committee for all of their work in laying the foundation for this, because they put in hours and hours of work and built a foundation that we then made some amendments to and built on, and couldn't have done it without them.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
And happy birthday to our IT director, Andy Stone.
Oh, you're kidding.
I'm not kidding. He spent his birthday with us.
Oh,
All
thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I think that we better call ourselves done here. It's 10:17, and I will call us adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.